When I went up to the university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. Here, he's saying that Khushwant Singh was given a room by his parents because he is when he joined the university. After joining his university education, he is having his separate room. So this increased the old women loneliness. His grandmother feel very lonely because this time they won't share the same room, and before than that they shared the same room. So she feels very secluded or she feels very lonely. She spent her time praying and spinning the wheel of feeding the sparrows. So she made herself busy with what? She rarely left her spinning wheel. She's spinning wheel is charkha. So she kept herself busy with that charkha. From sunrise to sunrise, she sat by her spinning wheel and reciting prayers. And from morning to evening, she is busy with that spinning wheel or charkha and reciting her prayers. Only in afternoon, she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. And when and in afternoon she relaxed herself, and how she relaxed herself, she feed the sparrows. So what she is doing, she spent her time in praying and spinning the wheels and feeding those sparrows. While she sat in the veranda breaking the breads into little bits, hundred of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. And for those little birds or sparrows, she makes the bread or turns into little bit of pieces so they can eat those pieces, and a veritable bedlam of chirpings. The birds are making noise and creating a confusing chirping and fluttering of sparrows around the grandmother. Some came and perched on her legs, and other on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. And birds, some are perched on her legs, some are on her shoulder, and some are even set on her head. This made her smiled. So after the all these things, she smiled, but she never shooed them away. That means she never flew them away. It used to be the happiest half an hour of the day for her. These are the best moments in the whole day for his grandmother. When I decided to go to abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. And after completing his university education, Khushwant Singh decided to go to abroad. I was sure my grandmother would be upset, and this time he was sure that she feels very upset about that. I would be away for 5 years because he's not going for 1 or 2 years. For 5 years, he would be away from his grandmother, and at her age, one could never tell. And in this age, you would never know what would happens up next. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. After hearing this no news that Kushwant Singh is going for 5 years for his further studies, she won't become emotional. Sentimental means she won't become emotional over here. She came to leave me at the railway station but did not talk or show any emotion. Even she came with Khushwant Singh or to leave him for the railway station, but she did not talk any single word, or she won't uttered any single word, and don't show any kind of emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, and she is reciting those prayers, and those are inaudible prayers. Her mind was lost in prayers because she is making herself busy with prayers. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of a rosary, and similarly she is busy with her mala or beads of a rosary. Silently she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. and she won't say a single word to him. She kissed on his forehead, Khushwant Singh forehead, and after kissing on his forehead, there is a moist print or imprint of the his or her lips. So this was the last physical contact between his and his grandmother. But that was not so. After 5 years I came back home and was met by her at the station, and after completing his further studies he came back from the abroad and met her at the railway station. She did not look a day older. She looks the same from last 20 years, and till this time she looks the same. She won't become too old. She still had no time for words. That means his grandmother is not having too much words this time also. She is not having too much words. But and while she clasped me in her arms. But when he returned from abroad, she hugged him tightly in her arms. I could hear her reciting her prayers, but he can hear those prayers when she hugged him or she made him clasped in her arms. She can Khushwant Singh can hear those prayers. Even on her first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with the sparrows. And when Khushwant Singh arrived at home, he saw his grandmother is happy with those sparrows. When she feed those sparrows, this is the time, or this is the whole thing in her day when she feels so happy and satisfied. Whom she fed longer and with her frivolous rebuke. And now she increased her time to feed the sparrows. Before than that, she fed them for only for half an hour, but now she increased the time. Here, frivolous rebukes means the grandmother playfully scolded the sparrows as they flittered noisily about her. Frivolous rebukes are means she scolded those sparrows. She sometimes scolded those sparrows, but in some another way. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of neighborhood, got an old drum, and in the evening, what would happen? That she came over her and she did not pray. She is not praying in the evening. She collected all the women of neighborhood because she feels happy from her heart that his grandchildren is coming home back after 5 years after completing his education. So she got an old drum and started singing and dancing with those drums because she feels very happy that his grandchildren is coming back home. For several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. And she sang like that he is like a warrior who's coming back from home. The grandmother sang, thumping a broken down drum or a dholak. Even the skin areas of thumping and giving the beat and had become loose due to disuse and neglect, and that drum is become sagging or loose. Why it becomes sagging and loose? Because they won't use that drum or dholak very often, so it becomes some sagging. But instead of that, she used to beat that drum and making some noise and sang of the homecoming warrior, and he welcomed Khushwant Singh that he completed his education. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. And Khushwant Singh and his parents, they try to force his grandmother and told her that now stop doing all these things after so much of, because she got exhausted, she's old. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. And from his childhood till now, this is the only single day she did not pray in her life. The next morning, she was taken ill, and after that, in next morning, she fell ill because she was not praying. It was a mild fever, and doctor told us that it would go and when they called for doctor told them or prescribed them that it is a mild fever and it will go after taking these medicines. But my grandmother thought differently. But Khushwant Singh grandmother is having something different in her mind, that she told us that her end was near. According to his grandmother, she imagines herself that this is her end. That means this is the end of her life, or these are the end moments of her life, you can say that. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, now she's saying that, because why she fell ill, because she closed the last chapter of her life, and she had omitted to prayer, that she forgot to, or she won't prayer. That is why she fell ill. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us, and she was not wasting her time, and she won't talk to them. We protested, but she ignored our protest. They insisted. Khushwant Singh and his parents, both of them or three of them, were insisted for their grandmother, but she won't listen to them. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. And she laid peacefully on her bed and start making those beads of a rosary and start praying to God. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving. And before their suspension, or before they assume, her lips stopped, and her beads fell down from her lifeless fingers. And now this is the time, or this is the saddest time of his life, that his grandmother life is no more, and the beads of a rosary fell down from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead. And there is a peace, there is a calmness, there is a serenity on her face, that everybody knows that now she is dead and she is no more. We lifted her off the bed, and is the customary. His parents and him, Kushwant Singh, they lifted their grandmother from the floor, because this is the custom. This is the custom in our societies. Laid her on the ground and covered with her with a red shroud, and covered his grandmother with a red shroud. Shroud is kafan. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. And after few hours, they make arrangements for her funeral, so that they can make her funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be ceremated. And in the evening, when they came with that stretcher, which we called the earthy, crude stretcher is earthy, for her ceremation, the sun was setting, and had it lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. And because of the sunlight, her room were lit. That means her room is fully lighted with that sunlight, and in that veranda there is a golden light spread everywhere. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, and they stopped in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in the room shroud. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor, and because every time she fed those sparrows, so all the sparrows collected over there there in their veranda, and try to give their mourning to his grandmother, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrows and set scattered on the floor. That means they gathered on the floor and try to giving their mourning to his grandmother. There were no chirping. The sparrows were sitting silently over there. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fed some bread for them. Kushwant Singh and his parents, felt sorry for the birds, because his grandmother is no more and she won't give them breads. So his grandmother fetched some bread from the kitchen and gave those breads or little bits of bread to those sparrows. She broke it into little crumbs, and similarly, like his grandmother, his mother also breaking those breads into little crumbs or little bits, the way my grandmother used to do it. Similarly, like his grandmother, and threw it to them. She threw it all these breads to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread when we carried my grandmother corpse off. Sparrows won't pay any attention on breads because they only pay attention on his grandmother. They flew away quietly. They won't make any noise. All the sparrows, they won't make any noise. They flew very quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. And they also felt very sad about his grandmother. They are very sad. The sparrows are very sad that they won't eat a single piece of bread from there. So, in the next morning, the sweeper swept all these breads and collected them and threw it in the dustbin. So, here is the portrait of this lady who is the grandmother of Khushwant Singh. That evening, she sang some homecoming and this the thousands of sparrows came and silently bade farewell to their gentle pious friend. And this is in the last, the sparrows came silently and they're gentle and they are giving farewell to their the grandmother is like their friend, so they are giving the pious soul or the pious, they are giving farewell to this pious soul, and the pious soul is the grandmother. This is the whole story.